Hello, everybody. My name is Maïa Barghout. Quick introduction. I've been working for 20 years, mainly in service-related industries. Somehow, like 10 years ago, I started noticing in most of the corporate environments how much pain there was in the corporate environment. And I started noticing that even though people were pushing for numbers and results, most of them were not happy. And where there was something that was not exercised, and this is what got really got me thinking to what can we do differently. That was 10 years ago. Shortly after that, I became an internationally certified advanced trainer in emotional intelligence. And I also started thinking about what ways I can help people best, not only in some practices in emotional intelligence, but how can I best help people to drive themselves forward and keep the energy without really thinking about positivity per se, but being optimistic about the challenges that have been going through. During the COVID situation, I asked myself, how can I set myself apart here in terms of driving some value for people? What can really happen here? What can we be thinking? What can we be doing differently? People are in pain. They don't want people to tell them what to do. They know enough. And we have so much information overload to the point where we are stressed, overwhelmed, and we just don't want to go on anymore. I'm talking about it as it is. Today, what I'll be sharing with you are some tips for compassionate leaders to really drive business forward and their personal lives forward in a compassionate manner. Now, Kristen Neff is an associate professor in the University of Texas at Austin's Department of Educational Psychology. What I really loved about what she said about the three components of self-compassion was one of the fundamental building blocks that I'm going to be sharing with you today. I want your heart to be open. What I want for you to do today is to drop from the mental state and drop yourself down to the heart state. What does this really mean? I want you to close your eyes for a second. Just close your eyes for a minute and tune in. Tune into your heart. Touch your heart. If you feel like, okay, Maïa, what are you really asking us to do here? I really don't know what it means to drop down to my heart and really to feel what I'm feeling. You know what? I understand, because feeling is hard. Okay? And it's hard to feel what we feel in times like this. But I will tell you one thing, and I'm going to start off with the end in mind, and that is that people are more loyal to compassionate leaders. Leaders who can feel and not only drive results. Rasmus Hugard said that. And quite frankly, I truly believe him. And not only that, for those of you who think, Ya Allah, seriously, what's happening with me? I'm starting to age, I'm getting wrinkles, and that's just on the fun side of it. I'll tell you another fact. Self-compassion promotes healthier aging. I'm going to say that again. Self-compassion promotes healthier aging. Phillips and Ferguson said that in 2019. And I want to ask you a question. Do you know what compassion really is? Many of us don't really understand what compassion is. And some of us who do think, oh, yes, I know about compassionate leaders. You know, compassionate leaders are those leaders who are going to be feeling with employees and understanding their situation and what they're going through. Today, what I'm going to be sharing is to point the fingers from right ahead to right at ourselves. So I want you technically and physically to shift that finger from pointing ahead to ourselves. Because as leaders, what we usually think, frankly, we think about how we can help someone else. And we go into problem-solving mode. And here, Andre, is there a way that I could share my screen?
Yes, of course, you have access for it.
Oh, okay, brilliant. So I'm just going to share my screen. Et voila. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Do you see those two striking hot people right there? Now, this is Superman and Superwoman technically. And this is what a leader thinks they are. This is what we all think we are. We think we are so strong that we can handle everything. Today, we're going to talk about the bottom line. And the bottom line is not about the results. The bottom line is that sometimes, even though we do all the steps to keep ourselves going, we cannot. If we don't internally. We're not expected as a leader to always know what to do. Andre, do you think through all the teams that you have trained across those 10 years, do you think that people have always expected you to know how to do everything?
Of course not.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful ways about, leadership is about involving ourselves with others and being part of the process and driving results. If we drop a little bit to our hearts, we're going to realize one of the first steps where we cannot practice self-compassion is judgment. We not only judge others, guys, but we judge ourselves. That inner critic that sabotages the way we do about things. If we practice every single step that Andre has guided us through with how to keep the energy and momentum going, can we continuously do that if we have an inner critic in our mind telling us, no, you can't do this. No, you're not good enough. No, you're not going to be able to move forward. Actually, people are going to see right through the BS because most of our products and services are driven by us wanting to convince someone else that what we're doing is the right thing and what we have is the right solution for them. I'm an emotional person. Someone said to me once, what does that mean? I'm an emotional person. And guess what? I always thought I was an emotional person. And then somehow I got mind boggled when I discovered, quite frankly, my brain focuses on rational data rather than emotional data. And what does that really mean? Self-judgment is that aspect in ourselves where we tend to hurt ourselves to not move forward. If we look at the first step and you can put self-kindness versus self-judgment. Self-kindness is about treating ourselves with care and understanding rather than harsh judgment. Let's think about it practically. Over the 1,000 people that I have trained and coached in the last 8 years, I've noticed that most of us in the muddle of actually trying to reach a deadline, we forget about ourselves. We forget about how to take care of ourselves and we drive ourselves to overwhelm. We also, when we're kind to ourselves, we have a desire to alleviate our suffering. How many of you actually thought about this? And how many of you actually think this is important? You might tell me, Maïa, what do you mean alleviate my suffering? I have deadlines. I have things to achieve. I don't have time to think of my suffering right now. But I'll tell you one thing, anything that you put on the back burner, anything that you repress, anything that you avoid, anything that you ignore will come back and haunt you and will come back and manifest in any part of your body. I know because I've been there. One of the practices for actively soothing and comforting yourself through self-kindness is actually noticing which parts of your body actually get strained and stressed out. Have you noticed which part of your body gets strained and stressed out? Have you noticed when someone tells you something, which part of you gets strained? Is it in your throat? Heart? Is it in your head? Is it in your stomach? Do your limbs freeze? Do you start clenching your fingers? With time, all this stress will actually cause certain things like arthritis, difficulty breathing, sleep apnea, insomnia, and many other diseases. So actually, I'm going to teach you one quick trick. If you're one of those people who stresses out and their hands clench, caress your hands. I'm serious. You might laugh at this. But in fact, these tools, it's just a 5-minute thing. It's a 2-minute thing that you do while you're breathing. And you just soothe your hands. You just soothe them. Try it. And once you try it, are you trying it, Andre? Did you see how it feels?
Yes.
How are you feeling while you're doing that?
It gets some comfort in your heart, let's say.
Absolutely.
Like you're hugging someone or someone is hugging you, right?
And the most important thing is you're hugging yourself. You're being kind to yourself. What we don't understand as leaders is that sometimes we think of how I can soothe someone else, but in fact, who I first need to soothe is myself. Because another fact, guys, we can only be limited in our compassion towards others when we are not compassionate with ourselves. Excuse me for our power cut. This is part of being in Lebanon. So, just to move on, if I want to help myself feel as good in this possible moment, I need to also be wondering, how am I contributing to humanity? Seeing your own experience as part of the larger human experience is actually a fundamental way of growing yourself in 2021. What most of us have done in COVID is isolating ourselves, thinking that we are in this alone, that we cannot do this together. And then gradually we started on those Zoom calls, but still we felt alone. And when we feel alone and we isolate ourselves, what happens is, in truth, we become egocentric. Egocentric because we start thinking, oh my God, this is not supposed to go this way. What has gone wrong now? Why is the situation so abnormal? I don't need this in my life right now. I don't need this to add to my stress. Have you gone through that? Have you asked yourself these questions? Well, guys, that's what life is. None of us have really, had a reassuring word that, life has to be perfect. We have not signed up for this. We might be really angry about it. Physiologically and evolutionary, many people throughout the ages have actually grown and evolved, especially in times of crisis, especially in tough times. So what do you tend to do? And I want you to just shift your little moment. What do you tend to do when something really hard happens? Do you stop? Does time stop with you? Do you feel isolated? Do you go into ruminating thoughts, thinking you're not good enough, thinking, you know what? I really have, as a leader, I have so many people relying on me. I have so many people depending on me to give them the right tools. But what is really happening with me? I'm isolating myself. If that sounds like you, I want you to take a moment to really think how you can practice humanity more and how to connect with others. We need to first recognize that life is imperfect and it will always be imperfect. The imperfection will never change. There's no such thing. The only thing that I could do is be kind to myself. Once I'm kind to myself, I can automatically be kind to others. And being kind to others and compassionate with others is no longer something tough to deal with. Because let me ask you, reflect for a moment. When was the last time someone was kind to you? When was the last time someone did something nice for you? Do you remember?
For
And
me,
how did it make you? Yes, go ahead, Andre, sure.
well, for me, I had a lot during the past 2 weeks.
So if you could just share one, Andre. I remember you shared one with me when I called you to wish you a happy birthday. Do you want to share this one or something else?
Which one I shared with you?
You shared, I think it was about Christine, when what she told you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, let me do this, by the way. Actually, Christine was our first speaker today. I hope
Yes.
she is listening. I said the best thing I heard during my birthday this year was Christine Francis telling me that because her son also has the same birthday, like the same day, she said, "I would love to see my boy, like my child, like you when he grows up." And that was like the best thing I can hear from a
Wow.
mother wishing that to her son, and that really touched my heart. So thank you, Christine, again, and that was so nice also.
So when you say, Andre, that it touched your heart, what was the feeling you identified, if you remember it?
Well, when I say touched my heart in this way, it means like I felt loved. That's number one. I
Mm-hmm.
felt appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
I felt proud also, and yes, I felt connection also. That's connection.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love, Andre, that you actually used 4 emotion words to describe how you felt. Many of us say, "Oh, I felt so great." But great is not an emotion. Great is actually a judgment of that experience. It's a state. Good, bad, great, okay, fine. These are all explanations of a state. They're not feeling words. And there's a huge power in identifying that feeling once you feel someone did something kind for you. I mean, one of the kindest things that a friend did for me, and I think she's online and she's listening, so I'm going to share that with Zaina, is that when I was in Dubai for 3 months after the explosion, I knew that if I was going to continuously give back to my clients and to the community and to organizations in the best way I possibly can, I knew that I needed to take care of myself. And the first thing I said to Zaina was, Zaina, I just want to be happy. I just want to do things that make me happy. And that, guys, is not selfish. This is the key component of a compassionate leader. And then you know what Zaina did? She knew that I absolutely love the sea. I mean, I love sandy shores and I love the sea. I adore the sea. I can be at sea every single day and I'm so happy. And so we did a date. Once a week, she would pick me up and we'd go to the beach. And that was the most amazing thing because that drove me forward, that settled me and grounded me in the best way possible. And then I was able to be able to recognize what is my next step. So how I felt when Zaina did that, I felt recognized. I felt that I mattered. So I felt important. I felt significant. I felt cared for. I felt warm. I felt fuzzy. And these feelings actually help you have a large, warm smile on your face. And when you can do that, trust me, if you are facing the toughest problem in your business today, or even at home, personally with your spouse, anybody who annoys you, and those little annoying things like somebody interrupting you when you speak, those tiniest things that you could think of, all those things melt away. They melt away when you can remember 3 kind things and 3 nice things about that person. And if you tell me I cannot, I tell you you can. You might like their shirt. You might like their watch. You might not like them as people, but you might find something or appreciate something about them. And that quickly switches you to kindness and thinking, if that person, God forbid, is no longer with us tomorrow, the last thing I say to them, would I be okay with it? Would I be happy with the last thing I say to them? And if not, you need to be brave and do something about it and face it. There's no such thing as negative emotions or emotional garbage. Emotions are data telling us how we are feeling and what we need to do next, which comes to the third part Mindfulness versus over-identification. So if you've been aware of your suffering, you need to turn that suffering on yourself and say, can I be with that suffering that's happening with me? That's mindfulness. In that moment that you are suffering or going through a tough time, can you say to yourself and switch and say, can I sit with you suffering and can I face you? The power of a master and being masterful is being able to sit in with the pain that you are feeling. And I'm not saying sit in with that pain for a long period of time. What do we usually do when we face a problem? We automatically go into solution mode. Okay, so this is the problem. I can't deal with this problem right now. What I can do is think, what are my opportunities? What are the next steps? What are the solutions? Stop. No. I'm going to go against the road here and I'm going to disrupt your thinking. And I'm going to say, no, stop. Stop for a moment. Before you think of a solution, understand and become self-aware of what you're thinking and what you're feeling. Once you are able to do that and you understand what is the situation you're in, and by the way, and ask yourself, why is this happening with me? What is causing this? How have I contributed to this suffering? We all know one hand does not clap alone. We can't continuously blame someone else or even ourselves. But what part of this problem can I address today so that I can shift it into the future? Because, ladies and gents, what we can understand best and the best solutions we can find are usually when we can own up to the pain that we're going through. So mindfulness is being aware of that moment where we're having a difficult time and sitting in with it, to just allow ourselves to be with those painful feelings. And rather than going into over-identifications, this always happens to me. You know, so it doesn't happen to someone else. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't have enough money. I don't have enough resources to drive my business forward. Maybe I can't take care of my family. Wow, this is really hurting me. I'm so stupid. I'm such an idiot. Stop. What about this can I understand in order to shift it moving forward? And only after we sit in with this, because we are not alone. I mean, the best thing I believe about the COVID situation today is that we realize we are not alone in our struggles, and people have been expressing themselves more and sharing their stories more. So that's something to remind yourself of before you go directly into fixing problems. And on this note, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do I love myself? Can you tell yourself that you love yourself in the mirror? Can you look into your eyes? Or does that cause you pain? Would that make you cry? As a leader, I want you to look within before you look without. I want you to be able to identify what is going on with you before you can identify what's going on with someone else and before helping them. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My name is Maïa Barghout. I'm a network leader in emotional intelligence here in Lebanon. I'm an advanced trainer. I coach people on practical ways of practicing emotional intelligence in your organization, in your daily life.
Thank you, Maïa. Maïa, what is the giveaway that you sent me?
So the giveaway are basically 4 steps that I've created to be able to identify yourself as a compassionate leader. And so the first one is about how mentally strong you are, how hard, where you are. There are leaders who are stronger in their heart space. There are leaders who are stronger they are smarter in their head space. Some leaders are stronger in their gut space, where they're able to make quick decisions. And basically the diamond leader is the one who's able to combine all these together. So there are just like bullet point or just like small tips right there to be able to keep track of yourself in 2021 and see if you're practicing all these areas of leadership to be able to be a well-balanced, compassionate leader.
Thank you, Maïa. A lot of gratitude in the comments. Send Maïa some hearts in the chat box, and see you later, Maïa. Thanks a lot for your session.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you very much for hosting me, and take good care.